Baby girl, this is for you. You know who you are. I'm here at you. Nothing can stop you. Lips and me. It ruined everything. Lace 'em up. Shine 'em up.
Spoilers, people. This world is still shitty, but we're gonna try to do what we can to make do. Wow. The cursing is already starting on We All Have an X-Chromosome. My name is Bill.
I'm Noelle.
And let's go through, and we have a guest today. We're going to be talking a lot about health inequity. And
Slow down, Bill.
We're going to be talking about health inequity and trying to throw some verbal kittens in just to lighten the load, as we call it. So, on to business before we get to the rest of the stuff. You can find us on our website at xchromosomepodcast.com. This has all of our links to our social media, Facebook, Instagram, things that people want to go and see. It also has links to our Patreon and direct links for donating, which currently what we're doing is fundraising for the showcase of Gretchen from our previous episode doing a dance routine as Boba Fett to Fett's Vet by DJ Chris. So that's going to be it also goes through and helps us to try to support other people, and that helps support us while supporting people that need to get things done through firewalls and paywalls and other things like that. You can also go through and write us at xchromosomepodcast.com. We'd like to hear your feedback.
Yes.
Also, like, subscribe, rate, review on all your podcasting platforms. Now, back to the email real quick. Next month is Pride Month. So, we want your ideas of what you want to hear about Pride. So, let us know. Write us at xchromosomepodcast.com. Write us at xchromosomepodcast.com. Now, we do have a guest today, and I'm going to bring this to the point that people may or may not realize, but I basically have both my moms online. Near the end of the old organization that we were a part of, me Noelle were a part of, both Noelle and our guest, Amanda, were my character's sires.
Oops.
So I have Vamp Mom 1 and Vamp Mom 2 on this podcast. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you.
So it's your Huffle Mom and Slither Mom.
Yep, pretty much. And the Huffle Mom, it was a Venturi too, which doesn't make any sense.
Not much at all, really, when you think about it.
All right, so
Your Slither Mom was murdered for not being evil enough, so
I know,
I feel like
right?
you should have reversed all of that.
Pause, reverse, switch.
no, it's strike that, reverse it.
Yeah.
But I found that a little bit funny that it finally has happened that both of you are on the same podcast at the same time.
Well, we were in the same bar at the same time in February. It was fun. And then everything went to shit, and both of our lives exploded because we're both in healthcare.
Yes.
Everybody in here is either in healthcare or healthcare adjacent. I'm the healthcare adjacent one. And that's why this is affecting all of us, because we all have to deal with this. I get so many phone calls with people worried about getting their help that they need due to the pandemic. There are other things that have come down from the state that we have to file through, which is a pain in the neck, especially for those that are immunosuppressed. It's just compromised. Thank you. It's just a world of chaos. And Amanda,
Hand washing.
Amanda, how dry are your hands from all the hand washing you?
I had a problem with that before all of this started. So basically, from the wrist down, I'm just a skeleton. Old saying of nurses of the body of a goddess and the hands of a crone. I don't know about the goddess part, but my hands are pretty rough.
Just remember, goddesses come in all shapes, and round is a shape.
I like to say that I have a body of a god, Buddha.
Right?
So,
But seriously, you're adorable, so stop it.
Thank you.
So you're a nurse, and you're on the front lines of this whole entire thing, pretty much.
Well, I am very fortunate that the population that I work with is very controlled. So as long as we keep that controlled, and we're okay. Basically, we're at the front door keeping everything safe so that they're not exposed. We're not exposing ourselves as well.
Yeah, so you're facility based.
I am not in a facility. No, I work in essentially a group home. So I have more than one patient at a time. But they do go out into the community until as of recently, and no one's going anywhere. But they are. I work with MRDD individuals and DD individuals. And for those who don't know what that means, DD means developmentally disabled. So I have. I call them my kids, but they're not really kids anymore. They're young adults. But they are patients who are associated with Children's Hospital, Nationwide Children's Hospital here in Columbus, and they go out into the community. They go to school. They go to day hab programs, things like that. But when they're not doing that and they're in their group environment at home, then they are with me. So my job is to keep them as healthy as possible. There's the reason that they have nurses is because there are a lot of outlying medical conditions that go along with all of that as well. So that's my job. Thankfully, I have not had to step into a hospital in a nursing capacity since all this occurred.
Same. Although it's pretty scary working with the elderly and doing home health because, I'm the one going to the grocery store for people.
Right.
And that's what makes me so damn crazy about, oh, well, I can accept this amount of risk. My patients didn't agree to your amount of risk, Karen. Put on a fucking mask. I didn't agree to your amount of risk. I'm an essential worker.
We didn't even get PPE until a couple of weeks ago, so about a week or so ago. We didn't have masks, which while we're in the home environment we don't really need to wear them. But when we go out and come back in, we should be having them on so we're not exposing our patients and we're not, helping on them or whatever. And we didn't even have masks. We were using masks that people had made for us.
That's mostly where we're at. But their high quality Renaissance Festival grade seamstressing. So it's multiple layers of quilting fabric. The seams are all really beautiful. They are, the masks I have are beautiful pieces of sewing that I cannot do. And they keep me safe. And I've actually sourced cloth masks for some patients because they're old and they don't know how to Etsy. They barely email. I mean, I'm lucky when they know how to text me to tell me things instead of telephone.
Text you? Wow.
Yeah, some of them are hip and a little younger and can text me, and it's pretty amazing. But,
parents are in their 60s and 70s, and I wish I had never my mom how to use a text app.
It's the only way my father communicates with me. Well, I like it that way. It gives me a chance to formulate a measured response.
Yeah, my family is basically through Facebook Messenger at this point, so I don't remember the last time I actually talked to anybody on my on the phone.
Family on Facebook, that's terrifying.
It's interesting being on this end, and you kind of feel ignored.
Yes.
Everybody's like, oh, hospital nurses, and for me specifically, it's like nurses are doing all of this stuff. Most of people having the most contact are making minimum wage and are not nurses.
I don't think people realize. I think the average person probably thinks that nurses make an insane amount of money, and and in some positions, nurses do get paid rather well. Still, sometimes not enough, in my opinion. But that they naturally assume that other healthcare workers make that amount of money as well. And it's amazing to me that people don't realize that there are people paid more to work in fast food and that get paid to take care of our elders and get paid. Not that there's anything wrong with being paid to work in fast food and get paid well.
No,
but I think it's really sad that you can have a skill set that you showering and changing diapers and giving medications and doing all these things for a human being, you're only making $10, $11 an hour.
Yes,
they wonder why there's problems in nursing homes with AIDS.
Right.
With
Yeah, and why
with STNAs or CNAs, depending on what state you're in.
why they're angry, why they're depressed.
Maybe staff us better and pay us, and you'll attract the sort of people who actually care, and you'll keep the sort of people who actually care. And I know there's turnover in the MRDD as well.
Some of the highest turnover rates for healthcare, aside from the elderly, is MRDD nursing and psych nursing, and also prison work. And those are considered what they would call a low job. It's something that, as a nurse, it's not like you're going to get prestige for it. As an STNA as well, not on television shows. It's not like ER or Grey's Anatomy, where everyone wears pretty scrubs and has their hair done just right, and or it's not like Life in the ER where everything's fast paced. It's not a job. I'm not doing something that a lot of people would glorify and get hyped about, cool nursing jobs, quote unquote.
Yeah, being hip deep in somebody else's shower is certainly not a glamorous. I've had some adventures. I ended up having to transfer a patient who did not want to be transferred into a shower. And to get him in safely, I ended up in the shower, sitting. There was a built-in bench. So I'm in this standing shower, sitting on the bench next to him, trying to do my job. And there was some cognitive issue. And this poor guy is not entirely sure what's going on. And at this point, neither am I. So I'm trying to keep calm so that I can get him to calm down so that nobody gets hurt. And I think that's another of the, inequities in healthcare, is that people don't realize how dangerous it is.
That you wouldn't think about.
And then there's the emotional labor.
Right.
I mean, my aunt retired from the James. She retired from cancer research. The amount of money she made during her career does not come close to compensating her for the amount of work she did, because she was doing breast cancer research and she was doing ovarian cancer research. She's working with people who are in clinical trials. This may or may not work for them.
I did hospice for a while, and for years I said I didn't want to do pediatrics because I didn't want to work with children, not because I don't like children, but because I didn't want to get attached to them, and because I was afraid that they would die. And I have had a patient that passed away since I started working in peds. But with that, when I was doing working with patients that were in hospice and things like that, thinking about your aunt working in with cancer patients, you think someone might glorify that and go, oh, there's people that they're saving. And you have to remember, from an emotional standpoint too, that people that work in that sector are also dealing with a lot of people who are not surviving. And so that emotional toll after a while is sort of like 9/11, when the body dogs kept going in to look for bodies and they couldn't find anyone else. So occasionally they would have to let them find someone just so that they wouldn't get depressed. Because the mortality rate, you're looking at certain types of cancers that they're looking for a cure for. Well, those cancers are not real good for survivability. So imagine that would be a very depressing line of healthcare to be in.
She's a pretty tough lady. To be honest, I'm proud to know her. We have a family friend who is an infectious disease nurse, and I think she's with the AIDS clinical trials unit. So, I have these incredibly compassionate women as examples for my nursing career, which is beginning and ending as a nurse aide, because I'm 40 and I'm tired and I don't want to be responsible for somebody's meds or catheter. And all the debt that goes
on all of that fun stuff.
No.
All right, I'm gonna be right back. I have to step away for a moment.
Okay, he must have to go cough. But yeah, it's been an interesting experience. There was a piece today in the dispatch in like the opinion section that my one patient who gets the dispatch stopped and pointed out to me. And it was about how, home health care workers, because even home health nurses, this is not the glamorous job where there's money.
Do pretty well compared to a lot of home health nurses. By comparison, because we're working with more patients, so we're doing more technically, doing more work. Therefore, I get paid more. But by and large, the average amount that a nurse makes compared to their education in home health nursing is kind of nauseating.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's going into that field, right, they obviously are doing it because they feel called, not because they're trying to, rake in the dough.
I mean, one of my adventures today involved making sure my patient's primary caregiver did not go arse over tea kettle on some chicken shit and rain and mud slurry.
Yikes.
Yes. She kept slipping, and I said, "Don't you dare fall." Because I can't fit in the coop with her. And because if we both go down, we're both screwed. Because she'd be on top of me. And, we'd both be coated. It was the last patient of the day. So if I had gotten coated in chicken shit and mud, I would have just tried to call home and have clean clothes brought to me because I'm 5 minutes from the house.
That's an interesting thing. Ever keep a bag in the car with clothing? Because I do.
I have 2 shirts. I don't have any pants. I have shirts and underwear and sports bra and socks.
I always keep a clean pair of clothes of some kind, like scrubs or something, in my car because I can't tell you how many times I've sat in something gross or gotten puked on or had formula spilled on me or what have you. And I always think, I'll be fine. And then the time that I think that is the time I need it. Stuff.
Yeah, I am building like a kit that's got like on the go wipes and deodorant wipes, like Pacifica makes them, so that I can basically take a shower.
Yeah, very lucky. The location that I work at is pretty cushy in that way too. The guardian, the parent of these kids, is actually a nurse, so it works out that she understands what's required in a home. And in a home setting. So it's very, very nice. It's in Hilliard. It's in a good neighborhood. I've had some home health jobs that were in some pretty rough parts of Columbus. The dad had to walk me out to my car at night because he was worried for my safety, kind of thing. So that it's much better environment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out in rural Delaware County, so I get things like I hit a deer New Year's Eve.
Oh no!
Totaled my car.
I have never, knock on wood, hit a deer.
I don't recommend it. I don't
know how I've avoided it because I lived in Coshocton pretty much my whole life up until 2006. So there are more deer than people in Coshocton County.
Back.
Got quiet. I was worried.
Oh no, it's fine. My husband said something nice about me and drew my attention to it, and so I have to go pay attention to it.
So, since there's a lull in activity, it sounds, while I had to go through, make a break for it.
We were chitty-chatting.
Let's talk about one of the verbal kittens that we pulled up. That is health-related, but still it's good news, so to speak. NPR, fear of contracting coronavirus propels some smokers to quit.
Oh, good. We're killing something else.
Hey.
But yeah, there's early studies that are going on that's showing that because it looks like this disease is 14 times more likely to require intensive treatment in smokers, the California hotline for smoking recovery has been starting to get lighted up with people that have been trying to quit because they don't want to increase their chances of getting infected. So they're like, maybe this is the best time to actually start. Well, maybe it should have started earlier than this, but that's besides the point.
I have a loved one or two that I should bring this up to.
Yeah. this is based off conversations that are going through in studies in California. And they're wondering.
Makes sense.
They're also wondering that because California already had a low smoking rate, if that's going to help California in general with the pandemic, because you'll have to start in the future comparing higher smoking rates with other states with California to see just how effective, in addition to social distancing policies, that the smoking would have with that. Now, I have at least, unless she decided to quit and she didn't tell me, which she doesn't tell me anything anyway. I know at least I have one family member that still smokes. Two if you count my stepfather. So it's interesting to see what their thought pattern would be. Interesting to see what their thought patterns on this would be, if I actually could have a conversation that doesn't bring up the man in the red hat.
Thanks.
So, what are your thoughts on this?
Mine, I stands to reason that smoking obviously affects your bronchioles and contracting coronavirus. That's usually what happens, is they end up getting the pneumonia symptoms are what eventually it's usually taking these people. So if you're a smoker and you get pneumonia, it's going to be way harder for you to get over it. So it stands to reason that coronavirus would be much worse for a smoker than for a non-smoker, because you just don't have the lung capacity to expel those secretions. Eventually they settle in there and cause infection, and then you eventually succumb to those symptoms, the pneumonia. But I think it would be a great way to open up a conversation with someone who had been digging their heels in. Mm-hmm. Hey, guess what else? On top of everything else. And this is coming from someone, I used to smoke, so something worse than that person giving unsolicited advice. But
how long have you quit for?
I was like 17, and I quit when I was around 27. So the good news is with that is a smoker the lung tissue will recover. So that's something to bring up as well to those people, that it's not like other parts of your body that once damaged can't regenerate. And that way our lung tissue is almost creepy, that it will generate and grow new cells, and eventually your lungs, within a year or two up to 5 years later will be like, it's like you never smoked. It's kind of cool.
That's kind of funny thought, thinking about that. My mom had passed away due to cancer. But the funny story about her cancer was the fact that she has been a smoker. She had been a smoker ever since she was like 14, 15, and was like usually smoking like up to 2 to 3 packs a day. So when they realized that she had cancer, they're like, oh, well, this is going to be completely obvious. It's going to be in her lungs because of her smoking habits. Mm-hmm. So they go through, do all the scans, all the biopsies of her lungs, and no cancer. And the doctors are like, what the ever-loving fuck? my mom's like, see, I can still smoke. They're like, no, you can't smoke because we need to try and find out what's killing you. It later turned out to be colon related.
Oh, wow.
But it's still, my mom always felt, before she passed away, felt that was like a victory, that because she was like, yeah, if they said it was in my lungs, they'd be like, yep, that was my fault, my bad. But since it wasn't.
I always tell people, I had this conversation with my dad, because my dad is a heart patient. He has a congenital defect, and he's had many open heart surgeries and whatnot. And he also smoked for years, and then he quit when I was around 11, but then he picked him back up again off and on. And the last couple of years he's been smoking again. Well, long story short, the conversation I had with him was, his brother died of lung cancer a couple of years ago. And he says to me, I know what you're going to say. You're going to bring up Steve. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because cancer is terrifying, but usually, I think Noelle can attest to this as well. A lot of her geriatric patients who have, you're much more likely to come across someone who has emphysema or COPD. Mm-hmm. And cigarette smoking, you say, oh, you might never get cancer. You absolutely will get these. And the longer you smoke, it's an inevitability. Like, it's going to happen. So, that's a good way to get someone to actually say, see these people with coronavirus who are drowning in their own fluids? That's going to be you 100% in about 20 years.
Ugh.
Same difference. So yeah, and there's lots of things to die from. So I add to the pile. Like I figure, have a left strikes against me. Why should I smoke?
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm sitting here eating McDonald's because my Grubhub also came, so.
Right. Yeah, I feel that, man. And fried chicken today for lunch, so.
Well, I had grapes for breakfast, so I had something healthy, so.
Good.
So,
Do what we can.
One of the things, I couldn't find the article, but what's both of your thoughts about all the states with their various reopening plans? I know you guys would have more details on Ohio, for example, but what's your thought patterns with the states trying to reopen as soon as possible? Like, it's almost like everybody's getting pressured because of the basically terrorism, to my viewpoint, but that's besides the point.
Let's call that what it is.
So you think that this is more because of the Karens and the Steves with rifles trying to terrorize the government into moving, or because they just are wanting to worry about the economy, or whatever?
It's our culture.
Yeah.
It's like a whole bunch of little things, but it's our culture.
People aren't listening. Like, just because they're saying, these are the new requirements and things are moving forward and they're trying to experimentally go forward, in my opinion, faster than we should. People inevitably, because of, as Noelle says, our culture, don't listen. And so they hear what they want to hear. And like a good example, we've had 2 bars in Columbus that got citations just the other night because they were full to bursting with people. But, they don't listen. When the governor says, still practice social distancing, people think, oh, it's over now.
Yeah, we had a city councilor up in the city of Malden that had a birthday party with multiple people at it at one of the at a restaurant. Basically, treating it as if, because they were the city councilor, they were exempt from the rulings about the social distancing and everything like that. So police had to go in and break up the party. So
really embarrassing. I think that you had a good point when you say it's our culture. To a larger extent, we're in the situation and the position that we are just because of what we do when the government tells us there's a pandemic, but just seems to me, especially with to pick on them, but the boomer generation, they hear what they want to hear. Is anyone else experiencing this with them? It doesn't matter how many times they hear something stupid or how many times they hear something a lie. Eventually, there's enough mounting evidence against, say, the president or this person that they voted for that should condemn him.
You're going to trust the CDC?
Right, but they would rather go down with the ship and to admit that they voted for the wrong person, or that they somehow went, and listened to somebody that they shouldn't have. And there's this like sticking their fingers in their ears and going la 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 kind of thing. And I was having a conversation with someone not that long ago about inflexibility the older we get, and how the older a person gets, the more inflexible they are psychologically to change. So it's almost like between our culture and then that age bracket of people, it's like a perfect storm for them just to completely ignore everything that's going on around them and go, no, this is fine. We just had a power surge.
Yeah, we've got weather.
One of the things that, in relation to that, I honestly think that a lot of the boomer generation that did vote for Trump, I don't even think that they're just doubling down on the fact that they voted. I think that they still actually believe the vitriol that comes out of his mouth. Because
they have to.
Because there are boomers that are like, oh crap, I should have never voted for this guy. What did I do? It's like, well, we told you that before. My older sister, barely Gen X from the boomer side. She realized she's been going on about she's been like very anti-Trump very recently, but she's realizing, what the hell? What did I do? Because my family lives in a swing state lives in Florida, which is a swing state on the Florida Panhandle, which is basically the highest concentration of conservatives in Florida. So they just added to the numbers.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even what about her emails. They just I just don't like her.
Yeah. Amazing how emotionally invested people get in that way in voting, or weird in stupid ways that don't matter. Like, I don't like the way that he's dressed or the way that she looks today, or just amazing. We all have a bias of some kind.
Yeah.
More than others. I remember as a kid in the grocery store with my parents listening to two women talk about the upcoming election when Bill Clinton was running the first time. It always stuck with me. I would have been, I'm thinking I would have been around like 10 or something like that, but I need to do the math on that because I'm not entirely certain about that. Might have been younger. One lady says to the other lady, well, I'm going to vote for him just because he's good looking. And I thought, even at that young age, I thought, boy, there's a lot wrong with what you just said.
My mom was a registered Democrat at the time, and that's the reason why she voted for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's how my father votes. Is he's a registered Republican, so it wouldn't matter if they put a polished turd up for election. That's who he's going to vote for.
The link that I just said, the first link is written by Craig, and it says to read the complete Revanche cycle first.
I'm having a sidebar. I'm intimately familiar with these novels. I read most of them in alpha. Yeah. Scroll to the fucking bottom of that page.
The second. It's the first Daniel Faust novel, but
baby, I read all 4 of the Revanche cycle before they came out. I was an alpha. I was a beta reader.
I'm going, but what?
Scroll down the fucking page. Yes. Did you see the asterisk? Did you scroll down to the asterisk?
Yes,
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No, it's not. It's part of the overarching story, but the Revanche cycle is a separate parallel. Yes, it does. It matters.
Just what I want. Shush, Craig.
Let's bring Craig on next week. See what he says.
I'm sorry about fighting with my spouse. It's the point of order thing.
Craig liked it. You hush.
It's Craig.
Not the bot. Craig Schaefer is an author friend of mine.
I was wondering, I'm like, Craig the bot? What?
No, the bot's fine. I got I'm sorry, a complete sidebar kitten. Ohio State football players will return to campus on June 8th. Happy birthday to me. We get practice per report.
Early? Wow.
Well, they haven't been able to practice. All organized activities are suspended until the 1st of June. Yeah.
Sports
be okay for them then.
I mean, they're willing to be quarantined. So there, now that I'm done being distracted, we can get back to the serious, grim business of health inequity and how all of the stuff we're talking about is impacting, our marginalized communities, the elderly, the not as abled. I don't know what your official terminology is, and I don't want to be an asshole.
Well, honestly, this is a interesting sidebar conversation to get into. Worked in population of folks for many, many years, and word that now I think about it, almost 20 years. Like crap, I'm old. There's a word that people get really hung up on, and the word retarded causes a lot of emotional responses in people,
as it should.
And it's used in different ways. And context is very important. And one of the times that people get upset when they see it is on medical records. Because mental retardation is a medical diagnosis. And it is nothing wrong with that word. It's used that way. Not calling someone calling someone a retard, okay? It is a medical diagnosis. It is something that I think has been discussed in terms of changing it to something else. You will see, like in an IEP, you'll see someone has what they call developmental delay or something like that. But medical terminology, the word mental retardation mental retardation are still used. But we don't say he or she is retarded. That's a separate thing. But I just find it interesting that a lot of people don't know that there's like a knee-jerk reaction to it, which there should be, because you don't want people using that word in a derogatory manner or in a manner which is ignorant. And I always like to bring it up because in nursing, and you're working with that population and you're looking at someone's medical chart, it's in their chart. So it can kind of freak someone out if they don't know what they're looking at and they see a loved one, their medical record, and it says mental retardation. You're going, wait a minute, are you calling them names? Or are you, like this is terrible, it's like no thing that's used,
Yeah.
Actual medical term.
Well, yes, it is an actual medical term.
And should only be used by those that are supposed to use it.
It belongs in charts.
Right. And that's pretty much the only time you see it. I have to put it down and, I'm charting on a patient, I have to put down their, if I have to list their diagnoses, it's listed. And it can also be very irritating. We'll see autism being written down, like, say autistic. So they're going, well, what, that put on the spectrum. Well, that's not a medical diagnosis. We can't use that word. We have to say autism or autistic because those are the words that we are required to use. So different than, it's not like I'm saying I'm calling you this and I'm using it in a derogatory manner or I'm using your diagnosis against you or whatever. It's complicated. Shouldn't be that complicated, but it is.
Everything is complicated because it involves, the legal charts or legal documents.
Right.
So the language is very specific. And
they shouldn't have emotions attached to them.
But, language is all about conveying feelings. So
right.
Everything is emotionally charged. And especially when it's been used to marginalize, which is, on the subject of, the mistreatment of groups. Yes. There's a whole mental health history of mental health and, neurodiversity series that can go in this spot because that's how deep and ugly it is. But it's just one of the ways that, when the world upheaves like this, there are some people who are screwed harder.
Yes. My God, yes.
People who need routine
mm-hmm.
are, because routine is how they function. Their world ended when they couldn't go outside. It was more than just, oh, well, I can't go to brunch at that one's place with my friends. Right. It was all is chaos. My life is over. What even is existence?
Right, and depending on the functioning level of an individual, talking about D folks, they might not even understand why.
They just know that something is wrong, and they are uncomfortable, and the things they do to make that not be a thing, they can't do, which makes it worse. And then you get some dumb. I can't even say dumb because they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. They're entitled.
Maladaptive behaviors.
No, some entitled.
Karen?
Karen. Yes, we'll call them Karens. That works.
That.
Some entitled Karen complaining about her fucking roots. My roots are showing. I miss brunch. Everything's closed and I'm cranky. I'm sorry, bitch. Somebody else's world ended and they don't know how to cope because all of their structures have collapsed.
Right. We're talking about people that are like handicapped. Imagine if you are in a wheelchair and you have to touch the wheels of your wheelchair in order to roll around, and your wheelchairs are touching the ground in the stores, and there's virus everywhere.
Just everyday filth,
and then, stuff that we don't have to touch, they have to touch. Things that we don't even think about.
On the subject of wheelchairs, one of my daily patients is a transfer to and from wheelchair to get a shower. It's an elderly couple. They live alone. She is a little old lady, and he is a dude that is two of me in just overall mass. She is less than me, and before I started, we got everything squared away, and I became a regular part of their life. She was worried about, well, what happens if, for her, they've got a spare bedroom, so if she got sick and she had to shut herself off in the other side of their condo, she could do that, and she could keep distance and keep together, and it would change how I had to work. And
it's a good point. Like, how do you get away from each other when you can't get away from each other?
And so my quarantine group is over several specific plats and mailing addresses, but I've seen the same handful of people since this started. And every one of them is not really in a position that they can thrive without me. Otherwise they wouldn't need someone like me to come in.
That's the thing that's it's rough with home care in general, is that you're so dependent upon their staff, and you're it. You don't have an option. If you work at a facility, you can, you say, oh, well, I'll just call off or whatever. Which, I mean, there again, that's a whole other conversation, because, you work in healthcare, you don't call off.
Yep.
But
but some people do.
But there's that option there. Like, if you work in a facility, you can say, well, I still have some sick days or whatever. You work in home health, if you, Noelle, don't go to work, those people don't have anybody else to come in. They have to do without. And so there is that added stress level of going, oh my God, if I don't go to work, nurses are some of the worst people. Healthcare workers are some of the worst people for not doing self-care, because we get so wrapped up in taking care of everyone else around us that we literally forget. So, if you know a nurse, tell her that she needs to go pee and she should drink some water.
Yeah.
I'm going to end that with all my phone calls now with my providers. All right, now go pee and drink some water. Bye.
Remind your staff to pee and drink some water and eat. If it wasn't for little old ladies, I probably would have starved to death in this career.
It's like a skill, that you can put on your resume, bladder control.
Well, during the day.
Single, yeah.
I'm getting some spouse heat because he does feed me at home. But
thank you, spouse, for feeding our Noelle.
Yeah, but I would be very skinny
outside of the care bubble,
and just generally, yeah. But without little old ladies, the world would end. I'm pretty sure.
Speaking of eating, let's drop another verbal kitten onto the fray.
Because healthcare is dark.
Yep.
Our lives are dark.
I will start by
Here's
showing Guy Fieri cat.
That is a cat.
Can we talk about Guy Fieri for a moment?
Yes, please.
All right. Guy Fieri gets so much unnecessary shit.
Yes.
Granted, a lot of people compare him like the Nickelback of the Food Network and things like that, but seriously, the dude just loves what he does, and he's excited about what he does. Recent news pointed out that this is from, it looks like Deseret News. It looks like a church newsletter. Who knows? Guy Fieri serves lunch to first responders in California, and he's joining a nacho battle. It talks about how he was handed out 1,200 carry-out box lunches to frontline workers at Memorial Hospital in Santa Rosa, California. But also, he's working to raise money for a restaurant employee relief fund. The fund gives out $500 to restaurant employees who are impacted by the coronavirus, according to CNN. And he's also working with this nacho battle thing with Bill Murray and Terry Crews and Shaquille O'Neal and Carla Hall, which will also help put together money for this. So, seriously, the guys, and I saw some photos of this too. He should have known better. He wasn't wearing a mask, but still, he was like, here, I'm signing these boxes and I'm passing out this food because I'm just cooking food and you guys are doing the work. So,
he's also from Columbus.
People forget, but they're like, what is Ohio? It's like literally 2/3 of pop culture.
Yeah, restaurants, man.
Let's see. We have our number one fan of the podcast, LeBron James.
Our fake fan.
Hey, as long as we're getting those numbers from Akron and LA, I'm saying that he's in. Listening.
I mean, really, I don't know people in LA, and I don't know anyone in Akron who would be listening to me.
So it's LeBron. Two, we have John Legend and Chrissy Teigen. John
Legend is from South.
I don't know about John.
I don't know where Chrissy Teigen is from, but I know where John Legend is from. I've driven past it. It's a wide spot in the road.
Did you guys get to see the trade for banana bread and romaine lettuce that happened with them?
No.
All right, so Chrissy Teigen goes onto Twitter saying that she can't find romaine lettuce anywhere, and she'd go through and make a trade with somebody for romaine lettuce. And the guy from the internet goes, "I have 2 bags of this," and she's like, "I need photographic proof that you have this." And he goes and shows a photo of it with holding it. It's like, "All right, I will meet. I will DM you, and we will meet, and I will give you banana bread for that romaine lettuce." And a tweet later, she's like, "Oh wait, I forgot. I only have enough for 1 banana bread. Will you take half of banana bread? Because John might be mad if I give the whole thing away." And the guy was like, "I don't want to have a fight with John Legend, so I will take half of banana bread." And they took photos of them socially distancing the trade-off. They met at like a parking lot, put the things down like 12 feet away from each other to go off and swap it out. I thought it was the most hilarious thing. And John showed up to be a part of the trade-off too. So. But yeah, I got to give props to Ohio in most respects for what they bring to pop culture and life. But yeah, Guy Fieri, everybody needs to stop mocking the crap out of the guy. He deserves accolades for all the stuff that he does. There's so many things going off in promoting what a good guy Guy Fieri is. I don't have to repeat them all, but this is just another example that he's working his butt off to try to make people's lives easier.
Yeah, he just does decent human being thing, which, for a guy who looks like a walking frat joke.
Yeah, people look at the walking frat joke, they just toss it off to the side when really he's funneling money to people that need all the things that they do. And he officiates gay weddings.
Just posted something up for you guys for later. If
that's what our page is for. Yeah, Bill's gonna have a whole lot of fun editing this.
Oh yeah. That Shane Torres defends Guy Fieri thing. That's the first thing I think of when I think of Guy Fieri.
Because he's got flames on his shirt.
I think of the casual sadism of Guy's Grocery Games. And just how casual a sadist Guy Fieri is. If you watch that show, that man is my Ohio. Just his casual and I'm gonna fuck with you.
Somebody say not that long ago that if TGI Fridays were a person.
No, TGI Fridays doesn't have that tiny spark of suffering and reveling in other people's discomfiture. Because, it's amazing. Yeah, TGI Fridays is all about, corporate sellouts and sucking the life out of everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, nobody is having fun at TGI Fridays. If somebody says they've had fun at a TGI Fridays, they're lying. They're a pod person.
So, my experience at TGI Fridays, I was with a group of people, and it was a friend of mine's birthday, and I told her, just briefly, look, order a dessert, it's your birthday, I'll pay for it, don't worry about it. Not thinking of anything. And they were like, all right, I'll get the dessert. And I'm sorry, you have to ask before you send out your whole entire staff with a cake.
Yeah, don't do that.
It was something that's like, look, it was a low-key, order a dessert, not a let's bring everybody into the whole entire thing. So, yeah, not fun.
Nobody has fun at TGI Fridays.
And that was the last time I went. But I did order TGI Fridays during the cars.
Why?
Because I'm a sadist.
I know you're a masochist.
He's a fan of Guy Fieri. I don't.
Oh no.
Huh. Oh, did you not know?
I just saw the link that you just posted.
Yeah. One, it's Malcolm X's birthday, and so everybody go read the autobiography of Malcolm X if you haven't. And if you haven't, read it again. It's a fucking amazing book. 2, we lost Annie Glenn to COVID-19.
Sucks.
She was also 100, so
yes.
She was going to die of being 100 at some point. But she was still pretty sharp and ticking along. So
a patient that 102, and she was still, this was some years ago, so she's gone now, but she was still in her right mind, still very, very lucid. She slept a lot, but she was a tiny little thing. I would go in her room, and she would always have the TV on listening to something. And one night I walked into her room, and she said, "Out of the blue, I thought she was asleep." She said, "Do you suppose they let you wear pants?" I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "When you die, did they let you wear pants?" I think you can wear whatever you want. If you want. She said, "Good. Don't let them bury me in a dress. I want to wear pants." She went back to sleep. It's like one of the cutest conversations I've ever had in my life. Pants.
I've had the conversation, because of the, average age of my patients.
Sure.
It's rough when they just come out and say, I was helping one of them. I lost her this year, and I just, I am still grieving because she was pretty fucking amazing. Her family sent me a thank you card, which just started everything all over again.
Sure.
I mean, this card, the inside is covered in writing, just both sides. So
Yeah, they took like almost every inch of that card. Noelle showed some of pictures of it to some of us.
yeah, there's names, so it's not a general public thing, but I can send it to you on Discord. But yeah, it's she had I think it was her last granddaughter got married shortly after I had started being a part of her routine in her life, and she had this beautiful blush pink suit that she wore as, part of the bridal party. And she wanted to be buried in it. And, we're organizing clothes. She's like, we were getting rid of her shoes because she had stopped wearing shoes closer to the end because she didn't go out, and shoes hurt her feet. So she had an assortment of slippers because if you didn't rotate them, they'd hurt her feet. She had neuropathy. But she said, "We have to keep those shoes. I need those shoes still." It was the pair of shoes that went with her suit.
Oh, wow.
It's like, you can clean out every other pair of shoes, but I need that pair. And it's the things the elderly will look at you and say.
Yeah.
Because they don't have, they're like, there's two ends in this life journey where you're very emotionally vulnerable and very open, and it's when you're a kid, and it's when you're very old.
Yes. Once people start getting into their, what I call their twilight years, they're getting into their like late 70s, early 80s, then they become more and more childlike as that time goes on. I've noticed it with my parents and with my in-laws as well, that they are almost like in this living their adolescence phase in all the good ways and bad ways.
I mean, my dad's playing pickleball, or he was before his. My parents are in North Carolina. They're in a retirement community that has transitional care. So when they're independent right now, but if they need other services, it's all right there on campus. So they've done all the work for me, which I appreciate, because now being an STNA and working in home health, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yes.
If you have to do stuff on the fly because your elderly relative is being discharged from the hospital after, breaking a hip, or they're being discharged from rehab after a similar injury, you're having to coordinate all this care on the fly, and you don't know what's going on.
It's awful.
And then you have to let a stranger in to look after your fragile loved one, and it's crazy. We've had a lot of cases that have just, we tried to open them because these people needed help, but they're too scared to start care. So these people who are desperate for us can't get what they need because it could kill them, which is the opposite of what we want to do.
Yeah,
it's
regard
so
to the virus. That's a question that's been coming up a lot lately, is people asking about, like, with home health care stuff, like, what are you guys doing about that? Or is there going to be more of and one of the things people keep asking me is, do you think there's going to be this influx of, because there's never any nurses available for home health care. It's like, there's just never any.
No.
Short staffed forever. Same thing with home health aides. And the
turnover rate
is exactly, the turnover rate is just consistent. So they were saying that maybe there would be more of an influx of nurses who want to do home health care, aides who want to go back and doing home care because they don't want to work in facilities. And I'm going, yeah, maybe if you paid them more, like,
I mean, my agency pays more than the facilities in the area for right now for a little agency. Wow. They're trying. They're not national church residences, but then national church residence is huge, and they're not they're not Ohio Health. Ohio Health pays better than I'm getting. I don't want to work in a hospital. My neurodiverse brain would not function in that environment. I would crash and burn and hate my job and run away to Kobacher House. And I am not emotionally prepared to work at Kobacher House, which is their. I
offered a job there several times, and
it's a great
declined it, but
it's a great place. It's where my grandmother went into end of life care. So I'm very familiar with it. And if I had to go work anywhere, I would go in hospice. I would go work for that hospice just to give back because they were so compassionate. That
a lot of good things about them.
But I am not ready. I have enough problems with my patients still mostly being alive that I don't think I can say goodbye all the time. It hurts too much to say goodbye infrequently. I lost 3 patients this year. To one funeral I went to. One was one of like my first patients, and one was also a family member. So that stung on a different level. But
one of the reasons I kind of took a break from what I was doing before I got into pediatrics was for that very reason, because I was working in a facility, but it was a lot of end of life care, a lot of patients with debilitating things like MS, end stage MS, end stage Parkinson's, things like that, and so they're not going to get better. You know what the end result is going to be, and every day you go to work and you're just going, well, who's it going to be today? And it was, I guess it wasn't very uplifting to, there were never any stories of anybody walking out of that place. So it could be really draining.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do make, grim jokes. There's only a couple of ways people move off my schedule. They either transition into a facility or they transition past the need for anybody anymore. And, I've had some transfer to facilities, and that's okay. It's still sad because this family that I've become emotionally intimate with on a level that's it's so strange to be in this field and work with the population I do. Because in a lot of ways, some of they're forgotten and they're sort of left on the sidelines.
Very much so.
And even if they have loving families, they're not getting, tons of visitors. Most of their friends are dead or incapable of visiting them. For one of the people I've helped, I and the other aide that was in the case were daily visits from somebody outside the family group, just somebody from the outside world, a different face. And, it's an interesting place to be in someone's life because you're different from a friend because you're an employee. You can, like, for you can kind with the pediatrics and working with the populations you do, you've got that, you're sort of a parent, but you're also not, you're also
really expensive babysitter.
Really expensive babysitter, but we occupy this weird space in society, and it's a space that we occupy oddly all the time, and even in hospitals and in nursing homes and in prisons and everywhere, the healthcare workers that are not glamorized live in just the most interesting space. My family friend has, with working with infectious disease and being part of the AIDS clinical trials unit, she's retirement age, so she lived through the last pandemic that hit, that disproportionately impacted marginalized portions of the United States population, and the ones that survived that are grimly watching the same shit happen, but it's also happening to straight white people.
Right.
And so at least they can take grim satisfaction in that it's hitting them, a little less COVID-19 is a little less indiscriminate than HIV.
Yeah.
It's still disproportionately impacting minorities and anybody who's not straight and white and rich. So that's most of us.
Could get a test done every
You don't
day.
have a yacht to hide on.
Yes, but a lot of people aren't allowed to even go on their yachts at this time either. So,
Yeah,
well,
hard.
Life must be hard. Cry more. Your tears sustain me. But we occupy this space, and for the infectious disease nurses in the 80s and 90s, they were all these people had a lot of the time.
right.
Their caregiver, their nurses, and especially at the end,
They didn't have family that was even willing to come see them, or family that existed.
They couldn't get people in the. There were, it took a specific sort of ferocity to set aside the stigma and do their jobs, because
And now with COVID-19, if you get it and you're gonna die alone because no one's allowed to visit you.
That's right.
And we're not allowed to touch you. That's one of the biggest frustrations for me, is that, skin to skin contact with my patients tells me so much about their health. I can, if I'm seeing them every day, or I'm helping them with a shower and doing skincare a couple of times a week, I get that chance with clean hands and skin to skin contact to notice differences in their feet that I can't necessarily see, because I can't get a good angle to look at the whole foot. So, it's not fear that's keeping people from caring for those dying from this new pandemic. It's not that, they want to let these people die alone. It's that it's not safe to give them the most basic comfort of having somebody sit with them.
Contact precautions are really, really rough psychologically for both the care provider and the patient. Because normally, versus that's when you're doing direct patient care of any kind, that's our goal, is to be able to lay hands on someone and make them feel better and make them feel comfortable, be able to provide care. When you can't even touch that person without some kind of barrier between you and them, it can be very dehumanizing and demoralizing. And I can't imagine. I've taken care of patients where I had to have contact precautions before, which in and of itself is a bitch. But it's a pain in the ass. You can't onto things like you want to. You can't see things like you want to. You can't breathe
the way you like to.
Yeah, the way you need to. So I can't imagine how awful it must be, and how defeating it must be right now. I just feel like you're not even with all of that, you're not even doing any good at all.
Looking at the CDC website, they were about the coronavirus. When we're talking about the inequities, it talks about on the page for COVID-19 and racial and ethnic minority groups. In the first paragraph, that goes off and says, a recent CDC MMWR report included race and ethnicity data from the 580 patients hospitalized with lab-confirmed COVID-19. Found that 45% of the individuals for the race or ethnicity data was available were white, compared to 55% of the individuals of the surrounding community. However, 33% of the hospitalized patients were black, compared to 18% of the community, and 8% were Hispanic, compared to 14% of the community. The data suggests an overrepresentation of blacks among hospitalized patients, because minorities are in the position that they are more likely to catch this because of economic factors, living factors, a lot of factors that white people, including me, don't have to deal with.
Having access to healthcare.
Having being able to work from home.
Transportation.
I mean,
being in, I've follow a lot of pages about, I try to be as intersectional a feminist as I can get away with, which is, I'm learning how to be a better one every day. But queer people tend to disproportionately be representative in service industries.
Mm-hmm.
Minorities, women, everything that's making society go is or has been grievously impacted by shutdowns, is not affecting corporate America.
Mm-mm.
I mean, corporate America doesn't have stuff to spend money on because the salons are closed.
Yeah, and if you look at that, I mean, it makes sense. Like, who's doing your hair and your nails? Usually a woman. I don't want to stereotype, but most of the men I know who do hair are not straight, unless they work in a barbershop or something. I have an exception that the guy that does my hair is a straight male, but that's he's like a unicorn.
I mean, most of the people I know that cut hair, style hair, they're gonna yell at me. Do hair. They're, even if they are female presenting, they're not necessarily straight or gender conforming or quote unquote normal. Same
People
with
that work
tattoo artists.
in those type of industries, most nurses are women. There again, healthcare workers, most of us are female. If you are in direct patient contact,
you are far and away more likely to be female.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all of the staff, but I think among like the very, the rank and file, the aides who are, out there grinding it out every day with the same patients and logging, hours and hours with people. I think I'm a complexion minority, or it's 50-50. But there's one guy.
Yeah.
There's one dude.
Most of our my agency is through has one male working in it. He owns the company.
We have more guys as go up the ranks. All of one of our nurses, male, and he's also the owner. I'm not sure on all of our PTs and STs and OTs, all of the therapists. So there are skilled clinicians that are not nurses. There are more men there, but it's a very predominantly female of all of the RNs and LPNs that I have come in direct contact with, and I am aware of presentation and pronouns and everything. One dude. One. So, and
you see more males working in healthcare all the time, but still it's about,
there was one guy in my ST. Yeah. There was one guy in my STNA class. Everybody but me, I think, was prepping for nursing school. But I'm like, nah, I'm gonna pause here. About half, it was about 50-50 on complexion diversity. But a lot of people a lot of women that were not from here originally. And by from here, I mean from Central Ohio or this continent. So, home health has a lot of immigrant, a lot of minority, a lot of, I worry about my coworkers going out to places because Central Ohio isn't, a bastion of liberalness. And like I said, I'm in rural Delaware, Franklin County with the occasional foray into Licking County. Because that's the side of our service area I'm on. These are farmers.
I'm like in Columbus, so that's not. Yeah, Columbus is weird because it's like bordered by all these very conservative areas, and Columbus, in and of itself, especially Central Columbus, is extremely liberal by comparison.
Yeah, it's weird. Very weird. Ohio is weird that way.
It is.
Until you get to Cincinnati, and then it's like everywhere, and then Hamilton County is liberal as fuck. And then Cincinnati itself is like old school Republicans. Old school Republicans. Not the new ones. Not the cultists. the ones who booed and hissed at Larry Flint. So he went one county over and built his porn store off of 75 because he wasn't allowed to open it in Hamilton County. It's weird. I think of all of the even with how diverse and liberal Columbus is, I think one of the city that will do the best in weathering this health crisis is actually Hamilton County and Cincinnati, because they have this weird little property tax levy. It's not so little, but it subsidizes the hospitals. So if you have zero access to healthcare, you can apply for the tax levy and get subsidized or no additional cost care. So before the Affordable Care Act, I lived in Cincinnati, and I got so much healthcare because I was super broke. And once I discovered that it was available, yes, I had to go to UC. Yes, I had to wait forever, but I could see a doctor. I could get my ADHD treated. I could have,
well,
my health taken care of.
Speaking of health getting taken care of, this is breaking news.
Uh-oh.
And this is good news, actually, in regards to this. A Texas federal judge on Tuesday has ruled that all voters afraid of catching the coronavirus can request an absentee mail-in ballot due to the pandemic.
In Texas, or is this
in
federal?
Texas? Texas federal judge.
Holy shit.
Because District Judge Fred Fieri ruled that the disability provision in the state's vote-by-mail election code applies to all registered voters, lack immunity from COVID-19, and fear infection at polling places. So, basically, if you're going to possibly catch COVID-19, you're disabled. But this is good.
Look, it's Texas. We'll take the half a win. It's fine.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's Texas. We'll take the win. It's fine. And hopefully this will help with other states, because we need as many votes at the polls as possible in November. And even if you're able to get to primaries before that, but still, seriously,
get your absentee ballot now. Shameless plug. Absentee ballots are available for everybody. Fucking vote. And while we're on the subject of, health and and half a win news, Ruby Rose is leaving Batman after only one season because she got fucked up. Batwoman. Ruby Rose is leaving Batwoman because she got super fucked up on the job.
She didn't say exactly why, but assumed that the back injury that left her almost paralyzed is factor of the show.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't actually say. She just said that she was. However, the half of the win part is that Greg Berlanti and the production said that they will be hiring another LGBTQ actress to replace her.
Yes. But let's hope that, the back surgery continues to heal well. That stuff is a bitch. Fingers crossed for Ruby Rose, because now is the worst time to need back surgery or any surgery, or
she's already through that.
Yeah, she's still rehabbing. It still fucked up her immune system.
But the surgery, at least.
Yeah.
That went.
Okay, so.
But follow up, the more important part.
Yeah, Bill covered that part.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Yep.
Unless I happen actually listening, when I have to give you twice.
It's fucking side seat podcasting. Do you want to be on the show? You can take over for me. I'll go take a nap or a bath or wash my hair.
Take yourself break.
I'll take a lady break. Adventure Cube core. Fuck you.
All right. I just want to bring on one more bit of verbal kittens during this whole entire thing. It actually involves kittens, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
Thanks to sheltering in place, animal shelters are empty.
Yay! Pets have homes.
Because
humans have support animals.
Humans have support animals. Humans are like, I'm home all the time. I need something that will keep me company. I will foster your pets.
I got headphones right here.
I need something that will love me unconditionally.
I will say
because I will foster a pet and never give it back because
that's the funny thing. You're saying that, and I'm watching like these dodo things because
of
people are
foster fails.
of COVID-19 foster fails. They're like, well, we're home and we decided that this would be a perfect opportunity to foster a cat, and they're like, I can't live without this cat. I'm adopting it. It's mine. It's everything that I wanted, and all the dogs, especially the senior dogs. Oh, the videos about the senior dogs. Like, it's
Yes.
like I brought the senior dog into my home. She was skittish. Now she's all love and joy and stuff, and I can't let anybody take the hard work I put into this dog. So it's been wonderful looking at for in regards to it's at least helping in that regard, and it's helping the animal shelters do what they need to do to get the support they need to get things out. It's something good, and hopefully it'll continue, and people will realize what animals mean to the communities themselves. It's tough when you lose a pet. I still
And
mourn every day missing my cat. So
and it's go ahead.
no, I'm done.
I meant Amanda.
Oh.
I said same.
It's as I have 9 foster fails, some of whom are staring at me pathetically through the office doors because they're like, "Why are you not loving on us? It is snuggle time, mother. You are home from work and not wearing pants. Why are we not sprawled across you?" Seriously, the French doors to our office, the woodwork is jacked up from them trying to get in here. We can post pictures to the blog or the Instas, whatever you fucking kids say.
Send me the pictures. I'll get that everywhere, so don't worry about it.
But you don't realize how much you needed this specific animal until that animal comes into your life and you develop that bond. I didn't know I needed an antisocial potato, neurodiverse runt Siamese, but then we got Mao, and we not so jokingly say she's slightly autistic. Because she'll biscuit on. I've got an IKEA bath mat. It's the nubby one under my desk for my feet, so that they're not on the cold cement floor. I said her name. Now she's screaming outside the office door. But she'll bust into the office and run around the office and yell at my spouse and yell at me, and she just got to tell us everything. And then she'll come over she doesn't do it she does it occasionally on his foot mat. He's got the same mat, but she always does it on mine. She will come over and she will zone out making biscuits. She'll make a few and then she'll get into it and her eyes will glaze over and she'll stare into the middle distance like when you're having a pleasant sensory overload moment, which anyone with ADHD can tell you is a thing, and it's really nice until you realize you've been petting that sweater in the department store for 5 minutes and everyone's staring at you and you're like and then you awkward turtle away. But she'll just get into her biscuit routine on a material she likes and go on autopilot, and it's adorable. But I didn't know I needed this antisocial little twerp until she started stealing French fries out of my hand and screaming in my face, or any of the other 8 of them who are their own pain in the ass. Like, we didn't know we needed Ginger until she started sleeping, all 15 pounds of her, on our chest, under our chins. Then we realized that we really didn't need her, but she's been here for years now, so we're stuck with her. And the fact that people are getting that opportunity now that they wouldn't have taking that chance because, well, fuck, I'm stuck at home. I might be alone. I might be in an emotionally distant roommate situation. There's a lot of reasons people, even in a community setting, aren't getting community contact, that they just fling open the doors and that there are so many foster fails. I'm not surprised. And it's amazing this is happening. It's one of the little things that isn't making any of this worthwhile, but at least is keeping my tiny faith in humanity, fed.
It's not all bad.
And actually,
it's mostly bad.
I want to add to say this. We are not a wrestling podcast. However, I just ran across this. Stone Cold Steve Austin wearing a face mask. All right? One of the guys that legitimizes being a tough guy outdoors wearing a face mask. Someone, he posted that on his Instagram. Someone responded, "The mask goes against your reputation. Stay strong, be a rebel, and do not conform. Cool mask, but strip off the communism." His response was, "Shut up, dude." If Stone Cold can wear a mask, you can too, and that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Shut up, dude.
Seen a bunch of people like, well, some people find it emotionally stressful and anxiety inducing. Hi, I have breath retention issues due to trauma. Hi, we'll go into when it's the next time it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month and it's not the end of the world, we'll go into some shit. Put a pin in that. I promise. I'll tell you some stories. They all suck. But because of past trauma, I have breath retention issues and breath control issues, like having to control my breathing, doing patterned breathing for yoga. There are some pranayama that involve holding your breath or constricting the breath in some way that actively give me anxiety to do. And my yoga instructor is amazing. Check out her YouTube.
I have been, actually.
She's amazing. Check out her YouTube. I can shamelessly plug her.
Post it. I'll make sure it's on the notes.
I will. And I'll post her PayPal. Teaching yoga is her joy and her passion and her vocation. She's also a geologist and works for the EPA, so she's out there protecting groundwater and doing cool science shit. She's wonderful. Sydney, I love you. You don't listen to the podcast, but I'm talking you up a second. She's got some training in trauma-informed yoga, and she knows this about me, so we don't do those breaths, or she'll check. It's even really subtle. Like, she'll check in. Do you have the mental capacity and the spoons and the emotional capacity to do this breathing? Because it's kind of integral to the part of the,
Sure.
Sometimes complex breathing patterns are integral to the class, and I can get through them on the right day. If not, there's always something else I can do. But I've worn various levels of masks, from N95 to multiple layers of quilting fabric. I say I much enjoy the 4-layer quilting fabric over everything else I've put on, because those fitted handmade masks are one of the only things that fit my face. Sidebar, they're realizing that PPE isn't cut for women. Like masks and gowns and gloves and all that shit, hairnets, goggles. That's why women have these deep, especially if they're working in COVID units, they've got those deep impressions in their faces because they're having to ratchet down so hard on the straps to get a tight seal so the gear works appropriately. Yes, patriarchy is dumb. Smash it. It's killing people. Literally right now, the fact that the world is centered around men is killing people who are trying to save lives. This also goes for first responders and soldiers. Literally anywhere that equal opportunity says everybody is allowed to put their lives in danger. If you are not standard male shaped, you're fucked. This even goes for smaller proportioned.
Sorry, we can't do a spacewalk today because we don't have a spacesuit that fits you.
Because your proportions are different. I'm short and I'm not petite. I'm just like 3/4 scale. So I get that nothing ever fit.
NASA was just stupid because it's like, how are you not prepared for that? You were aware of these women for a while. It's not like they just showed up in space that day.
We didn't realize that they didn't fit in normal people suits. Those aren't normal people suits. Those are men-sized suits. But I've had the N95 level. I've had the fabric. I've had the disposable. They've got like plastic on one side, a bunch of tiny holes in it, and then there's the disposable cloth on the other, paper,
Yeah.
whatever. They might be surgical grade. I don't know. I've never worn a surgical mask. This is all new to me. Normally, when I'm wearing a mask, it goes over the top half of my face. So I don't know what I'm doing. But if
those paper ones, there are a lot of them going on around right now that people are getting off the internet, and they're actually not no good.
Yeah.
Is to double layer them, but the good way to test a mask to see whether or not it's working, those paper masks, is put it on, then light a match or something like that in front of you and blow through it. If it wavers, then it's not good.
That's a useful tip.
Yeah, you're like blowing through it. So, or just double up on it. Like if you get a huge pack of 50, just like wear 2.
But if I, who have anxiety around not being able to get a full breath, can wear a mask and clean someone's house. So I'm not just idling through Costco at grocery shopper speeds. I'm doing intense labor. I'm scrubbing a toilet. I'm washing out a bathtub. I'm mopping a floor. I'm being active. I'm working out, essentially. If I can do it, but some people have anxiety. Yeah, we'd rather not die. We'll send someone else if we're having so much anxiety over wearing a mask that we can't go out in public. We'll find a way around that.
I'm sure that there are people that are just that claustrophobic, but overall, like, majority of people can...
Yeah, the majority of people who are claiming they're that claustrophobic are the same source of people who just want to bring their Yorkie to the store.
So far, I've only had one issue with wearing a mask the few times I've gone out in public, but I still wore the mask. And for some reason, wearing the mask blocks my lower depth perception. And it weirds me out. So I have to be very careful where I walk. Other than that, I don't want to catch anything. So I have a choice.
A really weird face shape then.
I have fat cheeks and I have a big nose.
Aw, you chubby cheeks.
The combination of fat cheeks and a big nose means that it gets blocked. I mean, I have to make sure I'm downstairs before I put my mask on because I'm afraid I'm going to miss a stair. But yeah, other than that, it's whatever. I don't want to die. No one else does. Steve,
wear glasses. You get the fog in the glasses,
I'm not having a problem with my fabric mask.
And I don't wear glasses because I'm vain.
I guess it's because the fabric mask sits more properly on my face, so I'm not getting. I'm getting a better seal, so I'm not getting the leak around the edges, which is nice. But wear your mask. We've got people tattling on businesses in Ohio, and I'm very proud of everybody who's tattling on the businesses in Ohio because these people are literally screwing around with everybody's health with their lack of social distancing and masks and general disregard for human life. I brought up in a Facebook post to somebody who was, stressing about the people reporting businesses that aren't operating correctly and people have throwing parties. That somebody in the thread had posted, well, I did all these things. This is the amount of risk I accept, and blah blah blah. And I said, okay, that's fine. I work in home health. I don't consent to your level of risk. I go to the same grocery store you do, running errands for my elderly patients who also did not consent to your level of risk. And then I take germs on my clothing back to their house to drop off their grocery or do whatever, and no matter how hard I work, how much Lysol I bathe in, how many times I change, how many showers I take in a day, it's not enough.
The biggest frustration for me is there are some people that just have to let it go because there are some people that want to be educated and they will absorb things when you tell them that maybe they didn't realize before. And there are people that just refuse science. There are people that are content to live in ignorance.
It's like that. It's that
brutal ignorance.
Good.
And that to me is it's maddening. It doesn't really matter futility. It doesn't matter what you say to them; they're just going to do what they want anyways.
It's like that post that's been going around recently from someone's Facebook conversation. It's that basically is going, so yeah, the CDC says this, but aren't you going to do your own research? And the person's like, no, I'm not going to do my own research. It's the CDC that's got billions of dollars researching this. What am I going to fucking do?
I mean, granted, the current head of the CDC was a complete fuck up during the AIDS crisis, but that's a horrible story from Cracked. Cracked.com did a wonderful article on Robert Redfield, who is not someone you want in charge of any of what's going on, and yet here he is in charge of the CDC. It's sort of the story of this administration. The last person you want in charge of X is the person with the job. America. We're all gonna die. I know we don't have any international listeners, so we can all commiserate together as Americans that we're all gonna die down here.
Yes.
You just Red Queen.
In kind of a sad way, yes. We're all going to die down here.
We have international listeners.
We do?
Yes, our sponsor and producer is an
Save yourselves!
Vanessa.
We are lost to your cause.
Don't visit.
We are telling you, Vanessa, do not visit.
We've dug too deep. Save yourselves.
I'm actually, just to double check, I'm actually going into our stats right now just to double check the claim. I'm being Snopes right now to see.
Oh, good. Snopes my shit. I'll just be Karen Kilgariff and say things with such authority that everybody believes I'm correct until we get 1,000 tweets.
Okay, so we have listeners that seem to be binge listening to us, actually. In the United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, Sweden, Australia, and Canada, because technically Canada is not the United States.
No, but we sneeze on them a lot, so
Yes,
I don't know if they count as safe right now because we sneeze a lot.
But we basically got all the white people's countries, so
boo. That's disappointing.
We promised to branch out at some point.
Yes, which just means we need to get more diverse. I can only absorb so much knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of white people in Canada, but they're not terrible.
Except Canada. The biggest argument in Canada is between one group of descendants of white colonizers complaining that their ancestors weren't as good at colonizing as the other descendants of white colonizers' ancestors, and thus their language is special and need protected. Bitch, you're just French. I said it. Come at me, Canada.
Bitch, just
that whole Quebec debate is just a bunch of second place colonizers' descendants complaining that they didn't conquer enough Canada.
Just French.
You know what else is from Canada? Go back. Go back.
So I think this is a good time to wrap things up since before we can start a war on Canada.
Before I start World War III with Canada. It's going to be the most polite, passive-aggressive war ever. They're just going to send me Schitt's Creek memes. It'll be fun.
So, again, next month is Pride Month. We're looking for ideas, stories, anything that you want in regards to Pride. So, really, if you want to share your story, let's know.
Yes, it's year 2 of us being in existence for Pride Month. Let's be bigger and queerer than last year.
Exactly.
We had some really cool queer gaming. We had a really cool queer gaming roundtable, and we'd like to do even more awesome. That's when we did our first interview with Holly, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Sweet. So bigger, badder, more drag, more inclusive. June.
Oh, geez, you're bleeding. I'm sorry.
Stop it!
That being said, write us at X-Chromosomepodcast.com. That's write us at X-Chromosomepodcast.com. So,
I'm sorry he was awake the whole time.
That being said, my name is Bill.
I'm Noelle, and thank you so much for joining us, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Amanda.
and we all have an X chromosome, and now we're gonna kick out the bot.
Okay, Craig the bot, who's not Craig the author, get the fuck out. Craig, get out. Craig, you're fired. Craig the bot, why do you never do what I want?
Because my computer is not cooperating. God damn it.
A spiral or two. Don't need knuckles or tails, just these shoes to sell. Turn on the head of a pin, learn curve, press start to begin. Rev mode for the win. You crash to chaos. Is our tool, I'll be your red shoes. I'll be your red shoes. You flame shoot it, I'll flame retarded. Bubble breath, underwater city, no master sneaks work harder. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. Floating palaces in the clouds, oil fields, no matter. We're on a roll, come on. You don't even have to climb up the side of mountains. No need to stress about mechs, we're collapsing titans. You can snowboard every now and again. The speeds I'm achieving will be the ones to get you to the end. No loops, no phrases, not convoluted statements, proclamations. Couldn't make a stop, we're on the spot. Down mine shafts around the world are not over, under, and through this plot. Diamond dash to the end of the slash, coming through like a beast, ready for the smash. And grab and stab, step and jab, it ain't bad. Cause we're going in the opposite direction of loss, give it a toss to the top of the pot. People want us to stop, we're a little bit hot. I guess they're mad, we're everything they're not. 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 I'll be your shoes. You can't get rid of me that easy, waiting for you at the front door when it's time to leave. It's true that when you got something so makes a time or two. The reason why I'm your speed shoes. Red and white stays true. High down for you. I'll be your red shoes. I'll be your red shoes. If you can't tell by now, there's a sonic sound. I'll do anything when your feet hit the ground. You don't have to ask me twice, cause I'll be nice. Feel the soul, I'll save your life. I'll be your red shoes. I'll be your red shoes.